The 6 Buffy brawlers for the next update have already leaked, and in this video, I'll be predicting all 3 Buffys for each brawler. I put a lot of work into making sure each Buffy concept is interesting and actually makes sense, as well as include many reworks, so please enjoy. Alright, let's start with Edgar, the face of bad randoms. At top level, he's the worst brawler in the game right now, so his Buffys need to be very strong to make him usable against meta brawlers. His first gadget is Let's Fly, which gives him super in 4 seconds. To stay consistent with the name of the gadget, I think the Buffy will give his next super 20% extra range and speed. This will give enemies much less time to react and make it harder to stay outside Edgar's range. I know 20% sounds like a lot, but because Edgar's super is so easy to counter, I think this Buffy would be fairly balanced. Edgar's second gadget is Hardcore, which gives him a decent sized temporary shield. The biggest issue with this gadget is, due to crowd control abilities like stuns and knockbacks, it often gets little value. So for the Buffy, Edgar is immune to crowd control while the temporary shield is active, making him much more deadly at close range. Moving on to his star power Buffy, let's start with Hard Landing, which gives Edgar's super an area of 1490 damage upon landing. To make it slightly more versatile, I think it'll get reworked to deal 20% of enemies' max health. For the Buffy, it'll stun enemies caught in the landing area for a full second. Combined with his Hardcore gadget Buffy, this would finally make Edgar a threat to other tanks and assassins at close range. Edgar's second star power is Fisticuffs, which gives Edgar an extra 30% more healing from the damage he deals. I'm renaming it Special Cuffs, and with the Buffy, the extra healing is also given to friendly brawlers and spawnables. This could change Edgar's playstyle significantly, where teammates can strategically time pushes with Edgar's super. Finally, for Edgar's Hypercharge, I think the basic attack will simply have a larger width and range. Edgar already gets increased reload speed after using his super in Hypercharge form, so the combination of reload speed, width, and range is surely enough to be broken. After the update, I think Edgar will be a mid A tier brawler, not completely broken, but well above average. Your Edgar randoms will still suck, but not nearly as bad. Moving on to Griff, who's a commonly loved brawler that's been slowly falling out of the meta for a long time. In my opinion, he's a perfect brawler to get a solid set of Buffys and a few small tweaks. I'll again start with Griff's first gadget. On activation, it drops an explosive piggy bank that destroys obstacles and deals 1400 damage in a small area. With the recent addition of aimable gadgets, the piggy bank will now be aimable, making it much easier for Griff to break up the map and even secure kills over walls. For the Buffy, the broken piggy bank leaves behind shattered glass for a few seconds, dealing 200 damage in a small area. I think being throwable is really all this gadget needs to be quite strong, so having a Buffy on the weaker side makes sense here. Griff's second gadget, Coin Shower, has always been boring and nearly useless, so I think it'll get a rework. Introducing Wealthy Investor, which now drops a power cube. For the Buffy, Griff also gains 25% supercharge. Since this will be extremely broken and versatile, I'd expect a cooldown of around 23 seconds. This is probably enough to balance it nicely with Griff's first gadget, which has a cooldown of only 16 seconds. Now on to star powers, starting with Keep the Change, which speeds up Griff's basic attack. For the Buffy, missing a basic attack instantly reloads half an ammo. Encouraging a furious spammy playstyle for a furious Griff only makes sense. Griff's second star power is Business Resilience. Every 2 seconds, Griff regains 15% of his missing health. For the Buffy, Griff's movement speed is increased by 11% while below max health. Business Resilience is a perfect dichotomy for Keep the Change, where Griff swaps ferocious spamming with an incredible star power for survivability. For Griff's Hypercharge, his main attack shoots 4 waves of 4 projectiles instead of 3 waves of 3 projectiles. The attack also has slightly more range and width. This would pair extremely well with the Keep the Change star power, encouraging players to play extremely aggressive, which is a common theme for Buffy brawlers. Everything included, I think Griff will be even more fun to play. He'll probably be a high A tier brawler, and he'll likely be used for strong counterplay against Bull and BB. Switching tunes here, I hate Colette. She's boring to play, bad in nearly every mode, and the push it star power is too goofy to exist. Colette is the definition of being eaten alive by power creep, and her kit is far too meh to put up a fight in the great 2026. Her first gadget is Nuh-Uh, which gives an extra 1650 damage to her next main attack. This gadget is actually quite good, especially with the low 10-second cooldown, but it's boring and doesn't synergize well with how Colette is commonly played. Instead, I think we'll get a completely new gadget, introducing Stealthy Aura. On activation, Colette becomes cloaked for 4 seconds. Cloak is a new mechanic where cloaked brawlers cannot be seen by nearby enemies, but are visible from a distance. For the Buffy, while visible, Colette's attacks become invisible to all enemies. Since Colette's a thief, having a gadget related to stealth is only logical. Having a unique cloak mechanic would make her fun to play. Colette's second gadget is Gotcha. On activation, Colette's shots heal herself for 5 seconds for 80% of the damage dealt. Since gadgets that change your next attack are slowly being replaced by aimable gadgets, I think Colette will get an aimable gadget that that's related closer to her theme, introducing Return the Loot. Colette quickly throws 5 projectiles in a narrow cone, and each projectile has randomized size and damage. For the Buffy, Colette gains 15% increased movement speed for 5 seconds. Now let's move on to Colette's star power Buffy, which I think will be incredibly broken. Colette's first star power is Push It, which pushes all brawlers hit by Colette's super to the furthest part of the attack. Personally, I think this is a bad star power since it's too difficult to get consistent value and feels kinda gimmicky. Instead, I'll rework it to Stealthy Steal. Colette is cloaked and gains 25% movement speed during her super. For the Buffy, Colette steals 5% of opponents' damage that are caught in her super, up to 10%. This resets when Colette dies. I think stealing opponents' stats is perfectly in theme with Colette, and the additional speed and cloak effects make it both fun and completely broken. Colette's second star power is Mass Tax. Colette's super gives her a 20% shield for 5 seconds. Every enemy brawler hit by it will add 10% more protection. For the Buffy, Colette steals 5% of opponents' max health that are caught in her super, up to 10%. This resets when Colette dies. Stealing max health is a great way to easily punish high HP brawlers, which would alone make Colette one of the best tank counters in the game. Now for Colette's Hyper Buffy, Colette's Spirit copies her attack after a short delay, which deals 1000 damage to enemies. At close range, the shadow attack will land nearly every time, basically just adding 1000 damage to Colette's main attack. After a major overhaul, I think Colette will finally be fun to play and will land somewhere around low S tier. Next is 8-Bit, who I think will get some massive changes. His damage booster is almost impossible to get consistent value from, often sitting on the sidelines or getting destroyed immediately, so I'm predicting both gadgets will be reworked to something that helps him activate his super. 8-Bit's first gadget is Cheat Cartridge, which instantly teleports 8-Bit to his damage booster. Again, we get another gimmicky ability, which rarely finds any real value. The most common use is as an escape hatch that forces a defensively placed damage booster, turning your super into nothing more than a spawn location. Instead, I think Cheat Cartridge will be replaced with Heading Your Way. 8-Bit teleports and mounts the damage booster onto his head, moving with him and acting as a shield until destroyed. With the Buffy, the teleport has unlimited range, and it immediately heals 8-Bit and his damage booster 2800 health. This will allow 8-Bit to bring his damage booster more actively into the game, as well as help balance his terrible speed with some much needed healing and protection. 8-Bit's second gadget is Extra Credits, which increases the number of projectiles in his next attack from 6 to 18. This will almost certainly be changed. Getting extra projectiles is so boring for a brawler with such a great theme. Instead, I predict we'll get a second gadget related to his super, and the idea I cooked up is Helpful Virus. For 5 seconds, opponents who damage 8-Bit or his damage booster receive the Helpful Virus effect for 3 seconds. This effect poisons, slows, and allows projectiles to glitch through walls. For the Buffy, while an opponent has Helpful Virus, 8-Bit's projectiles also glitch through walls. This gadget will help protect 8-Bit and his damage booster, but must be used strategically to keep enemies from getting free kills. Even though this concept is probably too unique for a super rare brawler, I'd love to see it in game. Moving on to 8-Bit's star powers, I don't think there's anything we need to change here. Boosted Booster increases the damage booster's range by 50% and boosts damage by an additional 15%. With the Buffy, I think the damage booster will also give 15% reload speed. 8-Bit's second star power is Plugged In, giving 8-Bit a speed boost while near his damage booster. With the Buffy, while connected, I think 8-Bit and his damage booster will gain a 15% shield. Paired with the Heading Your Way gadget, this would make 8-Bit nearly unkillable once he gets super, which makes sense for a Buffy brawler. For 8-Bit's Hyper Buffy, I think his attacks will home in on enemies. Obviously, this would be extremely broken, but since the name of the hypercharge is literally aimbot, this only makes sense. I think 8-Bit will be a mid A tier brawler after the update. 8-Bit is too slow to be at the very top of the meta, making him the perfect super farm for Ziggy and many other meta brawlers. He'll likely be overshadowed by the 5 other Buffy brawlers releasing at the same time, and will continue to struggle in cramped maps. Next up is Brock, who is one of the worst long-range brawlers in the game right now. He's basically only used for strategic wall break since he has far too many counters. His gadgets and star powers both make sense, so I don't think he'll get any crazy reworks, but I do expect he'll get extremely broken Buffies. Brock's first gadget is Rocket Laces. Brock blasts the ground below him and propels himself into the air. The explosion deals 580 damage to nearby enemies. With the addition of aimable gadgets, the direction and exact distance will likely be controllable, which would already make this gadget significantly better. For the Buffy, Rocket Laces has increased range and also gives Brock 1 second of damage immunity upon landing. This would allow Brock to use Rocket Laces for both offense and defense, which is much better than just an occasional escape hatch. Brock's second gadget is Rocket Fuel, which gives him a bigger and faster rocket that destroys walls. I expect Rocket Fuel will use no ammo and become an aimable gadget. For the Buffy, Brock instantly reloads 50% of his max ammo. Moving on to the star power Buffy, I'll start with more rockets. Previously, more rockets added 44% more rockets to Brock's super. I think this star power will also give his super a 25% larger area, and for the Buffy, rocket rain is 25% faster. This combination will synergize well to make Brock's super much easier to hit, as well as allow him to break up even more of the map. Also, I think this star power will also affect Brock's hyper super, which would finally make it good. Brock's second star power is rocket number 4, which gives him an extra ammo slot. For the Buffy, the fourth rocket has 10% extra range. For Brock's hyper Buffy, Brock shoots 2 rockets side by side. These rockets increase in speed and damage as they travel, and their massive power jolts Brock backward a short distance. With his gadget Buffy instantly reloading 50% of his max ammo, and his star power Buffy giving extra range to his fourth rocket, Brock could quickly position himself around the map to make game-winning plays. Shooting 2 rockets at once would also give him enough DPS to handle tanks while hypercharged. After the update, I think Brock will be a decent long-range brawler. However, without major reworks, he'll still be easy to run down early game, moving up to around mid A tier. The last Buffy brawler in the update is Rico, who is unfortunately already very strong. Because of this, I think his Buffys will be a bit more balanced, but he'll still be absolutely busted on release. Rico's first gadget is Multi-Ball Launcher. Rico blasts waves of bouncy bullets in all directions. Multi-Ball Launcher gives Rico a decent defense against assassins every 20 seconds, so it'll probably stay. Having projectiles bouncing everywhere is kind of Rico's thing, so for the Buffy, a second wave is fired after 2 seconds. I think this is a smart way to add value in chaos, while still giving smart enemies an opportunity to stop the second wave from firing. Rico's second gadget is Bouncy Castle, which sucks. With assassins and tanks everywhere in the meta, Bouncy Castle is really only seen on Bell's Rock or into very specific matchups in draft. I think it'll only get worse as the meta turns more aggressive, so we'll likely get a completely new gadget. Introducing Rebound. For 3 seconds, Rico gains a reflective shield. All projectiles bounce off Rico, including friendly projectiles. Reflected projectiles only damage enemies. With the Buffy, while the shield is active, rebounded projectiles have extended range and can bounce, so while Multi-Ball Launcher is a great tank and assassin counter, Rebound would be a better option against long-range brawlers with projectiles. I think good players could have a lot of fun with this gadget, making insane plays bouncing projectiles off Rico. Moving on to star powers, Rico's first star power is Super Bouncy, which gives his projectiles an extra 240 damage after their first bounce. For the Buffy, the first bounce also gives Rico's bullets a short speed boost, making them harder to dodge and giving them more range. Rico's second star power is Robo Retreat. When Rico falls below 40% health, he runs 34% faster. With the Buffy, I think Rico will get an extra 30% shield. Normally, Rico is nearly one-shot by the time Robo Retreat activates, so giving him a shield only makes sense. For Rico's Hyper Buffy, I think his projectiles will unload and move 50% faster, giving his basic attack range or piercing would make it far too similar to his super, so having a basic attack that specializes on quickly charging super only makes sense. After the update, I think Rico will be high S tier and likely the best brawler in the game. Casual lobbies will be filled with brain-dead Ricos, accidentally finding kills across the map, but pro lobbies will adjust and quickly find solid counters. That's all for the video. If you have any Buffy predictions yourself, feel free to share them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.